This is our Frontier Opening Bell. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. I'm Temple Ashaji. With us on the show to give us analysis on some of the headlines we'll be bringing you across the continent is Bosun Omofaye, our executive editor at Frontier Africa Reports. Thank you, Bosun Omofaye, for joining us.
Great to have you. It's great to be
Let's
here with
hit
you,
the ground
Temple.
running now with the indexes, beginning with Nigeria, which is still at the 42,000 psychological position, almost falling below that psychological figure at this point. Yesterday was down by 0.1%. That was Wednesday. BRVM in the Ivory Coast market was positive yesterday, jumping by 1.52%. Egypt negative by 0.16%, and Nairobi Stock Exchange made a comeback again, 1.54% yesterday. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa was positive by 0.44%. Let's move on to the headlines across the eastern part of Africa. AFCFTA's success is to assist the continent in overcoming pressing economic challenges, says President Kenyatta. And of course, World Bank suspends some $100 million of grant or loan to the DRC over fraud and misuse of funds. Then ShopRite is now vacating orders halting the exits from Kenya. And of course, Port of Mombasa revenue beats targets by 17 billion Kenyan shillings in the first half of 2020-2021 fiscal year. Ethiopia says deadline for new telecom license bids is now April the 5th of 2021. Bosun, let's get you to share with us your perspectives on some of these headlines.
I think the story with the World Bank is what I'm going to talk about first, suspending 100 million US dollars in aid to DRC Congo. And if you notice that the World Bank has not given Nigeria the budgetary support that is requested for is 1 year now, 3 billion US dollars, broken down into two parts, $1.5 billion. Not a dime had come from the World Bank. That request was made in April. South Africa hasn't got a dime from the World Bank. Again, the World Bank gave very tough conditions. Part of it was that those money should not be used to support very moribund or what you call non-performing state-owned enterprises that are debt-ridden, like South African Airways, like Eskom, and the rest of them. Then Kenya also requested for this facility from the World Bank. The World Bank also gave Kenya tough conditions. Not a dime had come to the table. So between Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, now look at DRC Congo. Again, what's the point that the World Bank was making? There's fraud. There's abuse of use of money. There's corruption, corrupt practices. So if we give you $100 million, we don't want any money down the drain. Yes, there is so much liquidity around the world because of stimulus given by governments around the world, about 12 trillion, nearly $13 trillion right now. But hold on a second. The government or the World Bank will not keep throwing money down the drain for every economy. So the times have changed, and I hope we recognize that on the African continent, on Frontier Africa, that the governments need to realize that times have changed. The days when the World Bank sitting down, they have all the money in the world and they can just throw any amount of you and close their eyes and go to bed, those days are gone. Number two, the Ethiopian telecommunication privatization of Ethiotel and the licensing round. Look, everybody's flying around and hanging around Addis Ababa for this licensing round. Safaricom is looking very hawkishly at the Ethiopian market. We're talking about 100 million plus population. You go into Ethiopia, you have a big market. So Safaricom from Kenya is waiting in the wings. Vodafone, and with a few others, they are teaming up together. The South Africans are also interested. It looks like everybody is interested in this market because it's huge in terms of what it will open up in Ethiopia and what it really means. Look at the aviation, the Ethiopian Airlines. So everybody knows what this will mean for the Ethiopian market. In the meantime, the government had tried to do a few things, now allow citizens who are in Ethiopia and abroad to open a domiciliary account. That came towards the third or fourth quarter last year. That news came. So a bit of a whole lot of reopening or opening up of the economy is happening, and telecommunication will be at the heart of that. I think ShopRite is stuck in Kenya, by the way. They got an issue with someone who is injured. They want to close up. The court says you can't go there. They said, no, we want to go. I think one way or the other, they will have to maybe go to arbitration, try to resolve this issue and just try to move on. But Kenya had not really been a very good story, sweet story so far for ShopRite. Choppies from Botswana has also had some issues in closing down some of the of their outlets also in Kenya as well, going back, taking some of his businesses back. Nakumatt has closed down, which originated between Kenya and Rwanda. It's also gone as well. So it looks like some of these retailers are beginning to stay back at home and explore local market after they've done the last 3, 4, 5 years of rapid expansion across the various zones in Africa.
Well, Kenya has now said that they will be putting a 3 million Kenyan shilling joint income accounts together as security, so that they can actually allow them to exit that corridor. Well, we'll see how that pans out eventually. That's something that is worth tracking actually for us on Frontier Africa reports. Let's move on to the Western African markets. Oil prices are soaring. I think they are around $58 per barrel now for Brent crude today. OPEC appoints Nigeria's Minister of Petroleum Silver, Timothy Silva, as the convoy for the DOC participating countries. Nigeria now sets to sell recovered assets, cars, ships, real estate, boats, and all other seized assets there. Then you have Brass and Books Capital launching e-agro investment platform oyl.ng. These are stories that look a bit motivating, especially the sale of assets recovered from looters in Nigeria, Bosun.
well, for Nigerian story, the sales that was on the front pages of newspaper yesterday, and we just thought on the editorial side that we should talk about it a little bit again. If you remember last year, President Buhari was very concerned, and I can't remember which of his, he rarely speaks to the public, by the way, but I'm sure it's one of those either October 1st or whatever, Independence Day, public holiday, and he said, look. It was very concerned about the fact that when he leaves office in 2023, that some of these recovered, looted assets, whatever seized assets, will be returned to their owners. And I remember that very well from his speech. I think it was in 2019, not last year. So, and he expressed concern that, look, when he leaves, the next administration will just return these assets to them. That is on one hand. Because he felt that it happened when he was the first military leader in 1983, when another administration came after him when he left through another military coup, which ousted him from office. They returned some of those looted assets, which he seized under this anti-corruption, whatever, then returned them back to the owners. Then you've had issues with the EFCC recently. If you remember the exit of Magu as the chairman of the EFCC over issues that whether some of these recovered assets had been sold or been personalized or taken away, vehicles, these houses, real estate, what have you. So I think right now they are putting the process and say, look, let us begin to sell those that we are confirmed through the court cases or whatever that they are already in our kitty. So this will be land, properties, filling gas stations, boats, ships, whatever. If anyone is interested in Nigeria, I don't know if anybody is interested anywhere in Africa.
But could it also be a way of mustering every opportunity to make revenue for this administration at this point? Because
I agree with you. These are if you talk about ships and boats and plant and machinery, these are, my question now, Temple, is that we're both Nigerians. So the question is, who has the capacity to buy these assets? This is the point. Who has the money? Who has the liquidity to step forward to buy these assets? Will corporates be buying them, or will individuals be buying them? Who has the access to money? Will these assets go into the pocket of the political class or elected government officials or civil servants who have access to public funds? That is one big question right now as to how do we verify those who are buying and technically the source of their funds. If we don't do that, you find out that these assets will be cornered by those who have access to the wealth of the sovereign state called Nigeria, and they'll just use the taxpayers' money to buy this asset personally and enrich themselves. So that's a big question right now, because if you ask the ordinary man on the street in Nigeria, he's just looking for his daily bread. Under this pandemic, companies haven't paid tax, they're laying off staff and what have you. Where do they have money to buy ship? Where do I have the cash to buy boats or ship, by the way, or plants and machinery? Who's got the money? That's one big story. But let's go to the OPEC story very quickly, which is one good one. And Timothy Silva being appointed yesterday as an envoy of OPEC to go to about 5 countries in Africa, Sudan was one of Sudan was one of them, and those who have been defaulting in the manner of speaking within the OPEC DOC agreement. So, is to have talks with them. Nigeria was praised yesterday at the GMMC meeting for being a good member of the party in terms of meeting up with its compensation that we overproduced last year or so. So we're bringing back those into compliance now, February and March. So being a good boy, we're being asked now to, Nigeria is now being asked to now go and talk to others who are fellow non-compliant countries. I think it's a very good one to be praised, Silver.
Right, Bosun. Thanks a great deal. Let's now dive into the Southern African markets headlines, where we've got the PMI jumping by at 50.8 reading compared to 50.2 in December. South African Airways, the decision on strategic equity partnership expected sometimes in March. And drink maker Distel now says its half-year profits rising by some 13.6%. Botswana is to diversify from diamonds into coal, base metals, says the President Masisi, and Seed Co Limited to apply for voluntary delisting from the stock exchange. Wilson.
Yes, but Botswana's story is very interesting again because of diamond prices. Diamond sales went to the bottom of the barrel last year. Those who are very wealthy were not buying diamonds. Of course, people were rallying into gold because folks in the number of fatalities and infestations in the Western Hemisphere was so huge that buying diamonds was not in anybody's mind. Those who are doing weddings were doing it via virtual or doing it on the street. You know, the whole glamour around weddings and buying diamonds for your lovers and whatever didn't all happen last year. So, but now the Botswana is Africa's #1 diamond producer and exporter, by the way. So diversifying into coal and base metals, I think they're sniffing around their neighbors, South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and others, and say, look, why are we sticking with diamond, by the way? Because the common man is not looking for diamond per se. Well, if he gets one, he will sell it and make money. But then he wants to just get on with his life. So what do you need for? So coal and base metals go into industrial manufacturing. You and I know that. It goes into energy, which is sorely needed. So, and these are the things that goes to into the whole factory, whatever, this and that. So it's better to go to that area that fuels industrialization, okay? Rather than try to make diamonds in Africa and selling it in Antwerp, in Switzerland, in fancy shops in Geneva, London, elsewhere. I guess that was the point for Botswana. In terms of South Africa's PMI, the PMI 50.8 is still at the doorsteps of going negative, but we hope it's better because December last year was 50.2. I think that was much better. I think we're making some progress around that corridor.
Great. Thank you so much for those editorial judgments there. Let's finalize the show now with the Northern African markets, where we still bring in the story of PMI here. That of Egypt rises slightly to 48.7 for January as opposed to 48.2 in December. The London Stock Exchange listed healthcare IDH is now to dual list on the Egyptian Stock Exchange this February. Algeria's Sonatrach inks an agreement with ENI, Total, and Occidental Petroleum, and EBRD is providing some 300 million euros in loans to Tunisia utility company STEG. So you talked about PMI for South Africa earlier. Let's look at PMI for Egypt. I mean, it looks like these are positive readings actually for these key economies of major markets in Africa.
Yeah, considering where we're coming from in November, December last year, when we all hit a very hard fall and the second wave began to hit the ceilings in the manner of speaking, 48.7, 48.7 for Egypt is still below water. You know that 50.0 is the level at which you are considered positive. Any single digit below 50.0 means that you're in the water. So right now, Egypt is in the water. But I think they will be able to come back from this 48.7. The outlook is on their monetary policy committee meeting, interest rate decision, how they will decide. Now they've seen this PMI. I know between now and March or April, where the second MPC will take place, I know the authorities in Egypt will have to do something about it, again, because Egypt is one major industrial hub north of the continent. Then you step into Morocco, then you talk about South Africa, then you can talk about the rest of us in that corridor. I'm I'm piqued all the time by what the EBRD is doing for North African countries, and sometimes I just wonder why the love is so much, because they're just giving them every fund, left, right, and the center. One day is Morocco, the next day is Algeria, the next day is Egypt, the next day is to Tunisia, and the journey keeps just going round. This European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, 300 million euros for STEG, which is a utility plant in Tunisia. Look, this is a whole lot of money by this time. I think the EBRD, all these countries, by the way, are members of the EBRD. By the way, they are shareholders in EBRD. So they are members, just like Nigeria is with AFDB and the rest of the African states, majority. So they're taking care of them, and they're just neighbors across the Mediterranean. So whatever goes well in North Africa or the Sahel region bodes well for Egypt. Oh, sorry, bodes well for Europe. The Europeans are doing everything they can through the EIB, which is European Investment Bank, and the EBRD, and a few other agencies to say, look, whether it's Turkey, Greece, France, Italy, Spain, all those across the Mediterranean wants to do as much as they can for North Africa to prevent this continuous spilling of Africans crossing the Mediterranean in dingy boats and crossing over and dying in the Mediterranean, or causing refugee issues around. So they're creating a whole industrial hub around the North Africa hub. Those who are the main countries that are major points for exit into Europe, they're trying to help them contain the surge of their people, their citizens, because fleeing Africa, looking for better life in Europe and all of that. I think this is one good news for the EBRD they are doing in North Africa. Very strategic one. I just hope in sub-Saharan Africa down here, we'll be able to do exactly the same thing and do a whole lot more than we're currently doing. The AFDB is trying, the Afrexim Bank is trying, but we need to do a lot more. You need the ECOWAS Bank for Development in West Africa, for example, to be up and doing more. You have a number of other development banks across the COMESA, across the SADC and East African region, and the Central African Economic Development Community, COSATU, and the rest of them, to do a whole lot more than they are currently doing, so that within that region, so that we can see this development spread across and we can industrialize Africa a whole lot better and much faster.
Thanks a great deal, Bosun Omofaye, Executive Editor and founder of Frontier Africa Reports. I appreciate all of your editorial analysis this morning on the show. This has been Frontier Opening Bell this morning. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.